Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking all about lavender. So we're going to begin with the magical correspondences, then we are going to talk about the medicinal qualities, and lastly we are going to finish up with how to grow, harvest, and store lavender. So for the magical correspondences category, we will begin with lavender being a lunar herb. So it is first and foremost considered a lunar herb, but it can be used to represent the sun as well. So with it being a lunar herb, it is more connected to have more of a divine feminine energy. So this is going to make it more associated with moon goddesses. Some popular ones are Hecate and Artemis. So other figures that it is associated with is actually going to be the Virgin Mary. So this is a plant that is typically referred to as Mary's drying plant or Our Lady's drying plant. Lavender represents the planet Mercury, the element air, and it has to do with zodiac signs, mainly Gemini. This is considered one of the two main flowers for Gemini, and then it also has associations with Virgo and Pisces as well. So the crown chakra is the top of your head chakra right here. It is the 7th chakra and also the highest chakra. It does represent spiritualness and consciousness. So this is another point of reference to where it can have to do with a higher sense of being, psychic abilities, or getting in touch with a divine energy. As you may expect, amethyst is a crystal that is great to represent lavender. It does have a lot to do with spirituality and calmness as well. Numerology, this would be the number 7, is associated with the plant lavender, again because of spirituality. As far as the wheel of the year, it can represent spring or summer seasons. However, I definitely prefer it for more of a spring. I think that a lot of orange flowers and things like that are going to be better for the summer seasons. However, you can do whatever you feel is right. So as a whole, from a spirituality standpoint, lavender is really going to represent love, peace, even attraction. You can use it in love spells, but mainly it's going to encompass those qualities for peace, healing, spirituality. So some spells that you can use this in are for sleep. I like to use this as an astral projection herb, so this is a great one to use in satchels that you can put under your pillow or by your bedside. You could also just add this into other spells for protection quality, even psychic abilities. Another popular use is to add it into Florida water. So I did just try that and it is amazing. So we'll be making that before long if you're interested in seeing a tutorial. Now, something else to think about for lavender when you're doing your spell work is that lavender buds and lavender flowers, they're going to be sweeter. So I would say probably use those in attraction spells or something for love. And the stems and leaves, those are more bitter. So if you're wanting that for protection qualities, I would say that would be a better use for those pieces. This one that I would put in very much of a relaxant category, so it's great for anxiety, insomnia. You can also use it for gastrointestinal issues, so it's very calming in that way. Some other uses are actually going to be for rashes and things of that nature. So if it is applied topically, then it's going to have a very calming nature, much like chamomile. Not only that, it can help reduce scarring, and also it has some other benefits too. So it's antimicrobial, it's high in antioxidants, as well as antifungal. So this is a great one to have in your garden for an insect repellent. It's going to keep away mosquitoes, moths, flies, fleas. You could even go as far as to make a bug spray for yourself. Be careful about using that on pets and children. It is kind of common for a lot of people to have lavender allergies. So just be a little bit aware of that when you're giving this as a gift. Some other great things about growing lavender is that not only is it insect resistant because it will repel them, it does the same thing for a lot of animals like rabbits and deer. I've never had any of them eating my lavender plants, so that's nice. So my specific variety is English lavender, so this kind is perennial to zones 5 through 9. If you have a Spanish type, you may want to consider having that in a warmer climate, such as zones 7 through 10. But we'll keep the specifics here to the English lavender because that's the one that I'm growing, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same aside from the temperature difference. And if it helps to kind of give care instructions, this plant is actually native to the Mediterranean despite the name, and Spanish lavender is native to Africa. Go ahead and move on to the care. So for this, you'll want to have like a dry, rocky, sandy soil. These do great. Just make sure it has good drainage. I'm growing mine in raised beds with just regular like compost, dirt, things like that, and it does perfectly fine too. Just make sure, again, it has great drainage and it's not sitting in a puddle of water constantly. Now, some other things that you should know are that it should have 6 to 8 hours of sun. It can stand to have a little bit of afternoon shade, and it will actually appreciate that. Now, some other things to know are that you should give it anywhere from 1 to 3 feet. These plants can get decently large and live a decent lifespan. So English lavender can commonly get past like 15 years old. So I imagine over the time of its life, it's going to be getting closer to the 3-foot span, considering it's year 2 and it's over a foot. So these do grow relatively quickly. With that being said, after the year 2, you'll be able to harvest flowers from the lavender. So if you're starting it from seed, you'll need to give it 1 year in the ground, and then the second season, you'll begin to get the flower buds from it. So to start these from seed, the best success that I've had is to just take and sprinkle your whole packet of lavender seeds onto a paper towel, or however many that you're wanting to germinate. Make sure that the paper towel is damp and place that into a baggie so that it will stay damp and keep the humidity in, and just let that sit for 2 or 3 weeks where it's going to be warm. You don't have to put it in the refrigerator for a cold stratification period, but some people do. But I just do that, and then after that point, I will take and put each seed into a cell tray or an individual cup, and they will sprout from that point. You may already have some sprouting on the paper towel. Just kind of keep an eye on it. Now, once you've transplanted them to the dirt, you'll want to make sure that that dirt does not dry out and that you're keeping it under sufficient either grow lights or outdoors. I do have more success starting these from seed and caring for them indoors, and then transplanting them once they are about 1 or 2 inches tall. So that's a little bit variable. You just kind of do what you have to in those instances. But the main thing is to make sure that it's getting enough light, or they're going to kind of dampen off pretty quickly. So these can be grown in the ground or in a pot. Just make sure that you're fertilizing accordingly, especially if you're growing in a pot. Other than that, you'll just need to know about the pruning, I think, as far as the growing process goes. This is important for the health of the plant, because if you do not prune it over a few years, the plant's going to go downhill really quickly and you're not going to get as much as you possibly could from it. Best way to prune your lavender is going to be, so once you've trimmed it from getting all the flowers and everything, let that go until fall time. And then what I like to do is just cut off all of the new growth that has come in for this season, and you should be good until the next spring, but you can actually prune it twice if need be. So you've pruned it in the fall, gotten off everything that's grown over the summer, and then spring comes back around the next year and it may have grown a little bit. If that's the case, you can do a second pruning here. So the goal here is just to really make a dome shape and keep everything nice and compact. When you are pruning, you only want to take the new growth off. You don't really want to go down to the woody stem. So just make sure that each year you're constantly removing the newest growth, and then it will keep putting that out and maintain a decent size while also being healthy. If it helps, the pruning size is typically going to be about 1/3 of the plant each time you prune. So now we'll go ahead and talk about the drying process. Once you're in your second year and you've got all of your flowers sticking up, you'll have about a foot of distance from the leaves to the top of the flower. So you'll just chop below that stem area where the new growth has come in about 2 leaf sections. You'll chop the flowers, and what I like to do is just grab like a sandwich paper bag and just stuff that about 1/2 to 2/3 of the way full of those stems with the flower part down into the bottom, and then just sit that somewhere to dry. So you can rubber band the top of the bag if you want to keep any insects or anything from flying in there, but just make sure that you keep it in a well-ventilated area that's at least mostly shaded. So once it is dry, after a couple of weeks or so, you'll just be able to shake the buds off into the bag or the flowers, whichever you're choosing to harvest. They are both edible again, so again, the flowers are sweeter, the buds are more concentrated, so whichever your choice is. But you can just shake those off into the bag and separate them and store them into an airtight container. You can either You can even blend that down and have all of the stems and the leaves mixed in with that. I don't really recommend that if you're going to be using the flowers and stuff for taste, because it will make it bitter. It will be like a minty, bitter taste for the lavender stems and leaves. Now, as far as that goes, you'll just store that the same way for the leaves and the stems. Just kind of break that down and store it into a jar separately. And like I was saying, if you're going to be using that in the magical workings, just use the stems and the leaves for more of a protective aspect, and then the flowers and the buds for more of a love and attraction kind of perspective. Just a few warnings that I have for lavender is, first of all, it is generally a pretty safe herb unless you're allergic. So we'll just move on with the small warnings that you should be concerned about. So first of all, it is mostly fine for pets and children as long as it is in moderation. So if you're using this in like an essential oil diffuser, be a little bit more careful, because the essential oils are more strong than just the herb sitting out by itself. So just be aware of that. It is for the most part fine to be around pets though, in moderation. Now, as far as pregnant women, so this is one that you may want to hold off on or only have a little bit of every so often, because it can cause uterine contractions, and we don't want that in pregnant women, obviously. So another concern would be if you're taking any kind of sedative medication, things like antidepressants or narcotics. This can obviously kind of go on top of those effects, so you don't want to add too much to what you're taking, I suppose. Just consult your doctor, of course, if you're taking any medications or are concerned at all. Okay, well, that is going to be it for today's video all about lavender. I hope that you enjoyed this and it was informational to you. If you would like to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope that you have a great day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!